Is there a strategy that'll help you grow your company faster? CEO Sales Strategies is an investigative business podcast for entrepreneurial people who never stop asking questions. Highly acclaimed sales revenue growth expert Doug C. Brown interviews CEOs, business owners, and professionals who serve them to uncover and share actionable tips and methods behind their bulletproof sales strategies. Topics covered on the show include their failures, struggles, secrets, and processes that help them succeed in selling millions to billions of dollars of their products and services, all with the sole aim of helping you grow your business. If you are eager to know the most effective sales secrets from the A players of the game, then the CEO Sales Strategies podcast is certainly the place to be.
Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown with Mr. Randy Jones coming up as our guest. He is a wealth generation expert. Really, when it comes down to, he's living the life that everybody would like to live, and he's got a good deal going for everybody. So what I want you to do is pay attention to some of the concepts that we're talking about, because a lot of times entrepreneurs, people selling, we all make money, right? So we make money. And what we don't look at is, what do we actually do with the money? We're all thinking kind of like, let's get rich versus thinking, how do I create wealth? And the difference really between the two is wealth has discretionary time built in. So discretionary time meaning, hey, I want to take 5 days off and just go sit by the ocean or the lake or out in the woods or whatever you want to do, right? And you don't have to worry about it because you can come back and things are moving along. I'm not just talking about recurring revenue. I'm talking about the ability of choice. And that's what this podcast is all about, this particular episode. Yeah, we talk a lot about, how to sell to CEOs, how to get into the top 1% of sales globally. But what do you do with the money once you have it so that you can actually leverage through the process? So pay attention to a lot of the concepts we're talking about around not just the application of what to do, but I would call it the mindset of what you need to have. So without further ado, let's go to the interview. Randy, welcome to the CEO Sales Strategies podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Doug, for having me here.
I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because, we focus mostly in CEO sales strategies. How do you get the top 1%? And be in the top 1% of closers as well, not only individuals, but businesses. So we deal with a lot of business owners and how to sell to CEOs of large companies and things of that nature. But one of the things that I keep coming across over and over and over again, especially with privately held companies, is a lot of companies have been in business for a lot of time, but they really have no exit strategy. And you're a wealth generation specialist or an expert, I would say. And I was so excited to have you on the show because I was like, okay, let's talk about exiting companies. Like, my feeling is a lot of companies they make a living, they get to a place where it's comfortable, some, more than comfortable. But the challenge is, 40 years later, they're still stuck in that same process because they haven't actually looked at the investing components of how to create that recurring residual after they exit. And if they're things like, old Doc Potter or, accountants or whatever, and they have a base of clients and they made a healthy living, when they try to go sell that company, they really don't get a high multiple on there. Sometimes they get, single value or even less. So they're kind of back into the place where they've got to work over and over and over again, and into their twilight years if they have to. So what I wanted to talk about on this podcast, and I thought it would be valuable for the audience, since you're an expert in it, how does one create wealth outside of the business world, if you will? I know we've got to take earned income and move it into recurring income. Right. But also, I guess the second, let's start there. How does one create wealth outside of the business so that they can actually get a leveraged and free life?
I truly believe, and I think this is a great topic. Thanks for, talking about it. I truly believe that the business owner is the cure for the economy. They have knowingly or unknowingly decided to be more than just a provider for their families. They're now the provider for other people's families, their employees. And I think for taking on that type of risk, they need a special type of support. When I talk to business owners, they typically have, and I look at how the companies are structured, they don't come to me and say, hey, I want financial advice, Randy. They say, I want to hire more people. I want the right people in the right seats. I want to expand my company. I want to buy new equipment, or I just actually want to put more money back in my pocket. When I look at their companies and see how they're structured, they often have multiple dollars doing one job versus $1 doing multiple jobs. The challenge with the business owner is that they get advice from a lot of people telling them what they should do. And the business owner, when I talked to him, I said, let's talk about planning or your retirement plan. They said, my business is my retirement plan. I'm going to sell it one day. I said, to who? And they sort of paused. I said, who are your top 3 companies that want to buy you, and why should they buy you? It's just like selling your house. We've got an extra, 13 feet on our back of our backyard, and that's why we're worth an extra $100 million. When I sit down and have a conversation with business owners about what's going to be your exit strategy, I often like to refer to it, your succession plan. Business owners started a company one day because there was something, a problem that they wanted to solve. And in their 9 to 5, they thought, I think I can do this better than where I am. Or I want to have this impact, not just for people in the, in the world, but also for my family. And when we drill down to it, I say, have we had a conversation? Business owners are so busy driving, they won't even stop and get gas, so to speak,
Right.
And, they run their companies all the way to the top. And at some point I say, well, what's going to be the plan? I'm going to sell my company. I don't know who I'm going to sell it to. And they wait too long to start having the conversation. And I think that's something that needs to start sooner than later.
No, I think it's a very interesting point, because I just had a friend who just recently exited a business. He was in it for almost 20 years, but, he got a very high multiple for his business, and he had a recurring revenue company with massive clients. So that's one case. But you take, again, the majority of businesses, as you're saying, they have no idea on how to exit, number one. So if they can't exit, number one, many people throw money into a 401k. But really, when they get to the end of that, it's like, okay, I really can't afford to retire at this point. And, I just turned 60. Right. And, that was one mistake that I made much of my adult life. I was earning lots of money. But I actually wasn't looking forward and taking that and putting it into investment money. So I tell my kids all the time, we're 20, 22 years old. And I was like, listen, here's where dad messed up. You know what I mean? You see dad making, high hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, millions of dollars some years. Dad still can't stop working, if you will. Right now, I have businesses, I have investments, I have that. I could stop in theory, but I couldn't live the lifestyle that I'm living. So I'm going to continue on. And I think a lot of business owners are in that position because just like them, Randy, I did the same thing. I was so busy trying to build the company and pay the bills and send the kids to college and do all the things that we generally do.
Right.
I stopped doing what I was doing in my early 30s and stuff, which was building real estate portfolios, things like that. Right. So, and I added it up the other day. If I had kept the real estate portfolio that I had right today, I'd have an extra $20 million to exit out on. Right. So how can business owners, let's talk kind of the small, medium-sized business owners, right? How can they set themselves up? Okay, if the company doesn't sell, because, when we build a company, we should always look at it as like, we're going to hold on to it for life because we might have to, right? Just be like you said, who are you going to sell it to? Not everybody wants to sell, but there may not be a buyer.
Right.
So in lieu of that, what should they be doing? Should we be taking a percentage of income or a percentage of sales or whatever in the company and saying, you know what, we're going to deal no matter what, X percent going toward financial future investments. And even if I've only got 20 years to do this or whatever it might be, I got to be here at that certain point. So what would you advise somebody that is in the fray today, and they're thinking about it, but they're not really doing it?
Right. I think first we have a conversation about, tell me what it is. What does life look like after work? Business owners have been working so long, they don't think about life after work. When they started, they say, hey, I'm going to start this business and this is what it's going to do for my life. And then, I say, when people tell me I want to start a company, I say, great, pick any 12 hours you want. It's a part-time job, you know? And so I have the conversation like, well, what are we going to do after this? And some people say, well, I think I'm going to relax. I'm going to, you know, do more stuff with my kids or my grandkids or something like that. I said, well, we should have a conversation. I think the number one challenge or mistake that people do when they're talking to business owners, that they only talk about their business and the value of the business, where they should put money. Like you made suggestions, should I put money in my 401k? 401ks are great for employees, but they're not, you can't save enough money in a 401k for a business owner. They're going to need other things, deferred comps and things like that. The business owner can sell to their kids, but typically their kids are really ticked off because they're at work all the time. And they're like, I don't want to run my mom or dad's business. You know, you can sell it to a third party, but you know, they want to give you the lower dollar, that you need the highest dollar, or you can sell it to your employee. As a matter of fact, in 2018, they passed legislation called the Main Street Employee Act, which the government was saying that a rising tide lifts all ships. And if we could sell to the same people who helped us become successful, our employees, because we say, hey, we're all in it together. And then the business owner rides off into the sunset and the employees are like, hey, John was good, but who's here now? You know, that is a solution of creating a buyer when one doesn't exist. The business owner, typically when they sit down a year out, I get this phone call, I'm thinking about selling my business. And I think now I got some time to meet with you. I mean, it's sort of, you know, late. We just have to do what we can, you know, because a $10 million business sale is only $163,000 of recurring income. And if a business owner has grown the value of their company to $10 million, they're roughly drawing off 10%, which is $1 million a year.
Right.
So when you go from $1 million to $163,000, the business owner says, well, I was ready to retire, but I can't take that type of pay cut because I can't maintain my same lifestyle. I said, well, what's the alternative? Dying behind your desk? And they were like, no, you got a suggestion? I said, yeah. We got different strategies, whether it be trust or charitable things. And really, first, I look at them from a personal standpoint. How much money do you need to maintain your lifestyle? Because saying that I got to sell my company for $10 million, when I really look at it, I said, well, actually, you could live your lifestyle off for 6, and now we might have 10 buyers. So it's really looking at their personal life, and then in the combination with their business life, and how do they combine so that we can really come up with a real plan that really works.
That's great advice, because I have a client right now, because I'm in that same position. Like I could stop, but my income would drop significantly, right? And it's kind of like, okay, well, I don't want to really cramp my lifestyle to that point, even though I could feed myself and, you know, the house is paid off, all that stuff. It's just one of those things that, you know, you don't want to go from $1 million income down to 163,000. You know, and I guess we could make an argument that you could still live a decent quality of life depending on where you live on 163,000.
Right.
But, you know, that might be the difference between taking your kids on and grandkids on vacation or not, right? It might be one of those type of decisions.
Right.
And so I typically wouldn't do that. And I think most business owners would not. So it's a very interesting quagmire that we all get into. And, you know, I don't think, I mean, we have a lot of millennials and generations listening as well. They're younger. So it's, what would we give for advice for the kids? I call them kids, and please don't take that, folks, as something. I'm 60, so you're a
somebody
kid.
less than 60. I feel like a kid to you. And I'm in my 50s.
That's funny.
But here's what I would tell people. You know, everybody, I think if we were to have a conversation with ourselves, you know, 10 years ago, you know, today we sit ourselves who was 10 years younger, we would say, don't do this, don't do that. And I don't know, life is full of lessons that make us who we are. But when I talk to, even with my kids, you know, the conversation is what needs to be had. You often hear people say, I didn't grow up with money, or we didn't talk about money. You know, I knew we had a lifestyle. I didn't know what we didn't have, so to speak. But I think families need to do, and parents and business owners need to have more conversation. I do with my kids. I say, here is what we have. I think people think about generational wealth as a pot of money that I'm going to leave behind. And so the business owner says, shucks, I just spent 39 hours, you know, in a day, in a 24-hour day at work. I don't want to leave that. My kids sort of got to do for themselves. And I say, well, there's a way to do it both ways. I don't think that you have to sacrifice, you know, your enjoyment of retirement and neglect them at the same time. So I would say, hey, how do we figure out Here's an example. This is specifically to your question. The goal in retirement is to be able to live off of roughly 80% of your pre-retirement income in retirement. And so what you do, most people want to live according to the lifestyle that they've grown accustomed to. So what I teach my clients, even business owners, I say, we're first with the business owner, I'm going to look at how you're structured, whether you're an S Corp, an LLC, a C Corp, or whatever, how you do or don't pay taxes, the benefits that you provide for yourself and your employees. And we're going to recapture 10 to 20% of your gross revenue. The 80-20 rule, they say 20% of what you do produces 80% of what you have. 80% of the people that you have, are consuming and not doing all the contributing to the top 20%. The 80-20 rule when it comes to wealth or money is that if we save 20% and live off of 80%, we take the 20% and reproduce the 80% so that when we live during our working years on 80% and we transition in our retirement years on the 80%, we have the same lifestyle that we've grown accustomed to. So I tell kids, save sooner, but here's the challenge with saving. I often tell people wealth is hidden in the words that define it. Here's an example. If I put a $10 bill on the table and I say, Doug, can you pick up the $5 bill? What would you tell me?
I don't see the 5, Randy. I see a 10.
If I put a $10 bill on the table and say, Doug, only spend 5 of it, could you do it?
That I could.
See, that's the problem with savings. Savings has you look for something that you cannot see while you ignore, right, what is in front of your face. So I would tell younger people, let's learn how we're going to spend 80% of what we make. When they offer you a job and say, hey, I'm going to pay you $100,000, you really only make $80,000. If you think that way, then when I say, let's save 20%, it's not like you're missing anything. And really, when you're negotiating your jobs or, starting a company, you think, hey, we made $1 million in revenue. No, we made $800,000 in revenue. And we take our taxes and everything out of that 800 because that $200,000 is for the day that we say we want to exit out of here. Think about this. If we could live to age 100 and we were retiring at 60, like you said, today I could retire. You could actually be living longer without a paycheck than you do with one today. So what are we going to do today that allows us to live the life that we've been working so hard to enjoy?
It's great advice. It's great advice. We're talking with Randy Jones. You can find him at www.realrandyjones.com. Randy, is there any other contact information that you want to put out there, or do you just want them to maybe go to the website?
You can call me directly, 703-919-6258. I often tell people this. My goal is not to make you a client, it's to tell you the truth. Now, if you want somebody who will always tell you the truth, then maybe you might be able to become a client. I think a lot of people are misleading people. Years ago, I was a combat medic in the Army, and as well as a nurse in the VA hospital. When we were doing our nursing rounds, my instructor said, students, medicine is not designed to heal you. It's designed to sustain you. And I thought that was crazy. I said, what are we doing in this hospital then, But a lot of the information here that we get on the internet and from different places about finance is not designed to create financial freedom, but financial maintenance, just enough to keep you going. Shucks, I manage money, but I often tell people, if everybody in Wall Street could tell you the best thing to do with your money, then why would they need your money?
It's a really good point.
They need you to be a part of the system so that it exists. So truly, wealth, I tell people, is hidden in the words that define it, because the only difference between wealthy people and everyday people is not their money. It is the way that they think about their money. So when I talk to business owners, I say, hey, we're going to have to change the way that we've been thinking. And that's really, really hard. Not complicated, but hard.
So let's go there, because that's a great place. I wrote it down. I wrote down mindset about 10 minutes ago, right? And because what does it take to actually think that way? Because I don't think, we're not taught this in grade school or college, right, or, whatever, right? We kind of learn this, I'll call it in the streets of life in business. A lot of times you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, there's an opportunity for me to leverage.
Right.
But we're not taught leverage, and, we're taught get a good job, get good grades, go to school, do all that stuff. So right, what is the mindset that somebody has to have, whether they're younger or older or whatever, to, I love what you said, financial freedom versus financial maintenance.
Right. I think when I have a conversation, whether it be an individual or a business owner, we have to have I got to reset your mind. We have to have a paradigm shift in the way that we think, because most advisors will come to you and they talk about your money. They'll say, hey, business owner, give me $100,000 and let me show you this strategy. You're short on retirement. Give me 100 and I'm going to turn it into a gazillion. I don't meet people who want to give up $100,000. And then the business owner is like, man, I don't want to put $100,000 in the market. I actually get a better return betting on me. That's why I keep putting it back into the company.
Right.
And so I say, well, we have other assets. When we're having this conversation, the mindset or the shift in your thinking comes from talking about the other assets in our life. We have our physical assets, our health and our well-being, our ability to take care of ourselves and our family. They say most people give up their health to gain wealth just to later on give up their wealth to try to reclaim their health.
Right.
We have our intellectual assets. These are the things that we learn. These are the things that we teach. These are the memories and experiences that we have. We have our ethical assets, our belief system, our moral compass, how we make decisions, but more importantly, why we make those decisions. And then we have our material assets. When I had this conversation with the client, I asked them all the same question. If you had a choice and you could only keep 3 and give up 1, which one would you give up? And I say, would you give up your health? They say no. I said, would you give up your mind? No. Would you give up your belief? No. Would you give up your money? They go, no. I said, you got to give up 1. Then I said, well, let me help you. Which one could you get back easier? And they go, the money. I said, oh, so money has come and gone in your life. Oh, of course. I've won and lost many times. That's why I'm so great at who I am. I said, then how about we align your money to grow the important things in your life? Saving money, growing money is really not exciting. There are more people chasing rich versus pursuing wealth. There's a difference. Rich is sexy, exciting, Bitcoin, crypto, so and so. Wealth is just like a system. I'm saving, and everything. I say, well, we're not saving for tomorrow. We're actually going to be living for today at the same time. So having a conversation about something bigger than their money and refocusing them on why you're living, because most people say they want to live life, but they're spending 95% of their time focused on their money. And when we realign a person about thinking about the most important things in their life, because nobody talks about their money on their deathbed. They talk about the experiences that they had.
Right.
Then I'm able to change it and say, now that you're thinking about the right things, the reason why you started your company, now let's talk about how we start to align your money, close the gaps in your retirement, find the right value in your company so that we can really grow the important assets in your life.
Makes a lot of sense. A friend of mine, Alan Weiss, actually, I asked him that question one day because, he's in his late 70s and he's there. He doesn't have to do anything. Right. And I said, what's the difference? And he said, wealth is measured in discretionary time.
Right.
So the more time we have to do whatever we want to do, the more wealthy we are. And he said, for some people, that's, $80,000 a year. For other people, it's 20 million, it's like everybody's always got a bigger boat.
Right.
So
right.
I love that. And it's right in alignment with what you're saying. Folks, we're talking with Randy Jones. Find him at realrandyjones.com. And Randy, the number is 703-919, if I got it.
6258.
6258. Give him a call there. Randy, I appreciate you being here. I have one question I'd love to wrap up on, because I know you run into that. You have to, because I talk to entrepreneurs every single day of my life, and they're always saying the same thing. I'm never going to retire.
Right.
I'm going to work till you're going to find me in this chair.
Right.
And, that's going to be the end. Right. But
right.
The reality is probably not the case for most of these people. So what do you tell people who have that conviction of, I'm going to work till the day I'm dead?
Hey, man, you know what? I tell it, if you like it, I love it. I believe that you're going to do exactly what you said you're going to do. The difference, though, I say, okay, let's put some real definition around that. Most people are working because they have to work. The business owner and the entrepreneur grows to a point where their goal of retirement or their view of retirement is not stopping work, but they go from have to work to want to work. I come to work because I love to work, not that I need to work, because truly, you remember, retirement used to be like, you retire at 60 and by 65, you're dead because you were sitting at home on your porch, and versus on a plane sipping lemonade, you were drinking lemonade in your rocking chair. And it was like the Walton. I'm dating myself, but you remember. And so I tell people, hey, if I can help you transition from have to work to want to work, I don't care how long you work. I truly believe retirement is not a destination. It's a jumping off point. Think about it. If we go to school, we get an education to get an A, right? You
Yes.
get an A in elementary school to go to middle school. You get A's in middle school to go to high school, A's in high school to go to college, A's in college to get a job. And then we're getting C's and D's in job during our working life. And, they sort of like, hey, you've been here long enough. We're going to push you out into retirement. We need to start getting A's and B's in our working life so that truly retirement is the opportunity to take the years of experience and start doing it everywhere with everybody, not because we have to, but because we want to. So I help my clients transition from have to work to want to work. And I say, work as long as you want.
That's awesome because, I don't think people look at their life as grading it like what they did in school. Like, is your life an A or a B or C or a D, or, would you give yourself an F and redline it as the teachers used? Now I'm dating myself,
right.
As they used to do years ago. So I challenge everybody to kind of look at it that way. Because
I tell people, don't be so hard on yourself, because sometimes people say, I should have done this years ago. I said, look, you did what you thought you were supposed to do when you did it. And I say, the only person you're in competition with on a daily basis is the person you see in the mirror.
Right.
You stop beating yourself up because you're making it harder for you just to say, from this point moving forward, I'm going to do something different.
And I always tell people, listen, I should have asked Karen Fitzgerald to the dance when I was 10 years old too, right? But I didn't. And even though I found out later she would have gone with me, I still never asked her, right?
Right.
My brother did, and he went with her. So, I mean, that worked out. But we can't look back and beat ourselves up and put ourselves some guilt, shame, and all those things that we tend to do as human beings. And even no matter what age a person's at, 60, 70, whatever, you still have a longevity, a period of time, and you can still turn your life into the direction you want. And those that are in their 20s, I was having a conversation the other day with a 24-year-old, and, we were having this conversation about, everything's so expensive. I can't, my mother made it on $9 an hour. I can't do that anymore. Right. So they get this thought that it's like, okay, I've got to do it all now, and I guess at our stage at life, we kind of look at it and go, no, kid, you don't, you got a long way to go, but they look at it as, hey, everything's right now.
Right. Because all the advertisement out there says life is short, but I keep reminding my clients, hey, life is long, actually. I said, and, let's not try to cram life into the next 2 or 3 years. I don't want you to burn out and then we got to spend 4 or 5 years trying to rebuild you.
Right.
How about we just talk about the things that are really important? And if you have a good advisor, they're going to talk about more than your money. And they're going to say, here's how we help you become the best you can be, and how we align your money with that goal. We begin with the end in mind, and knowing that if we keep the main thing, all of the things that we want to do will happen just the way that they're supposed to.
Agreed. And for those of you who don't know who the Waltons is, I'm going to challenge you with this one statement. Good night, John Boy. Good night, John Boy. Right? I can imagine people, especially the younger, what is the Walton? Look it up. It's on Google. Randy, I want to thank you for being here. I personally want to thank you from one veteran to another for your service as a combat medic and serving the VA. Folks, all of you listening, veterans still need your help. So, if you can volunteer in the VA or do whatever you do, to help out the VA, those veterans who have come back or, you just served a long time, please do so. And again, realrandyjones.com. This is the Real Randy Jones speaking to you today. So Randy, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. This was a great interview.
Outstanding, Doug. I love being here. Thanks for inviting me.
That was cool, huh? So here's the thing. I love the fact of looking at the 80-20 ratio, because I can say from my own personal life, I never looked at it really that way. If you take 80% and you can make your business work on 80%, but you're now taking your 20% and you're moving it to vehicles that create leverage for you, then what happens over time? Well, you get the leverage, you get the freedom. Really, wealth is measured in discretionary time. I mean, many of us understand, from this podcast, some of us understand, I can say for a fact, what it's like to have, 7 figures, 8 figures, those type of things in the bank. And the reality is it's great. You get kind of a security feeling, but the reality really comes down to, are you really free? I mean, if you have $3 million in the bank, are you really free? If you stopped working today, even if you could get 4% interest, without risk, it's $120,000 a year. It's not bad. You could definitely pay some bills, but are you really free? Freedom is what is wealth. And people, I've found what happens in entrepreneurial life is many times we're trying to focus on, okay, we got to grow our company from where it is today, and we got to add another 15% or 20% because that's going to make us wealthy. Not necessarily. It might make us more rich. It might allow us to do some more things. Certainly allows us to arrive at our problems with more style, but it doesn't necessarily set up us for wealth. Now, I can certainly help you with the part of getting rich. Right? I can get your people into the top 1% of sales globally if they have the stuff. If they're not, we can figure that out. I can help your company optimize your sales. I can help your company grow. I have one client right now that we worked 2.5 months together, and the numbers came back. They have one sale that's 9x what they normally sell. They're up 32% year over year, and the previous year to now. Their average order size is up 50% that it was year over year last year. Those things I'm very skilled in, and I can certainly help you. I wanted to bring this particular podcast because I wanted you to understand that there is a step after this. And that's why I brought Randy on. So, if you want to talk with him directly, you have the contact information in the notes. You certainly have the information that he gave on the particular interview here. So, as I always say to you, if you need help, want help, reach out to me. Doug at ceosalesstrategies.com is the best email. You can call us at 603-595-0303. My LinkedIn is Doug Brown 1234. I would love to hear from you. I'd like to know what you would like for particular episodes. If you haven't subscribed and you're listening to this, please subscribe to the podcast. The more you subscribe, the better the rankings get for me. And if you wouldn't mind, leave a glowing review. That always helps as well for other people going, hey, is this the real deal or not? And I appreciate all of you who reach out to me and say, hey, I love that. I love this component of it. So anyways, to your success, go out, sell something, sell a lot of stuff, make some money, and think about wealth versus just getting rich. Till next time, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. What is something that you learned that you could act on today? Don't forget to schedule it now, or it may never get forward momentum. If you find our content valuable, please leave a favorable review and let us know what you liked. Please also share this with others if the content will help them. For our show notes, other episodes, and more interesting content and resources, please visit ceosalesstrategiespodcast.com. See you soon, and to your continued success.